Every card has a story, but not every story gets its finish. There's a certain kind of weight that comes with a rated rookie card, especially one from Donruss. The bold, block lettering, the clean portrait, the unmistakable blue border around the edges like a spotlight around the next big thing. These cards don't whisper promise, they scream it. And in 2019, when Donruss released the rated rookie number 301 card of Dwayne Haskins, that scream was deafening. He had been a star in scarlet and gray, a record-setting gunslinger with a kind of arm that made defensive backs sweat and coaches grin. Haskins wasn't just another quarterback coming out of Ohio State. He was the quarterback, the one who waited his turn behind a long line of Buckeye greats, and when finally released, rewrote the Big Ten record books in a single season. Then he declared for the NFL draft, 1 year as a starter, one unforgettable year, and just like that, he was gone. But the world didn't forget. The league didn't forget. The collectors didn't forget. That 2019 Donruss Rated Rookie card, with Haskins looking off camera, calm, poised, unbothered, felt like a marker, a flag planted in the ground. The NFL was changing, and here came Dwayne Haskins. But before the bright lights of FedEx Field, before the draft green room, before his name echoed in Nashville on that late April night, there was just a kid from New Jersey with a cannon for an arm and a heart full of dreams. Dwayne Haskins Jr. was born on May 3, 1997, in Highland Park, New Jersey. From a young age, he had a presence about him. Tall, broad-shouldered, and articulate beyond his years. There was a quiet gravity to him, like someone already knew where he was headed. His father, Dwayne Sr., recognized the talent early, and his mother, Tamara, fostered it with fierce love and dedication. They weren't just a football family, they were an all-in family. When Dwayne was in the 9th grade, the Haskins family made a decision. They would relocate to Potomac, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., so he could attend Bullis High School, a prestigious private academy with a reputation for academics and a rising football program. It was a calculated move, a chess move. At Bullis, Haskins started turning heads. Over 3 years, he threw for nearly 6,000 yards and 70 touchdowns. He wasn't just playing quarterback, he was commanding, dictating the game with his arm, reading defenses like a seasoned vet, and tossing lasers with pinpoint accuracy. His high school film was a highlight reel of deep bombs and tight spirals. He had the it factor, that rare blend of poise, power, and polish. College scouts took notice. He originally committed to the University of Maryland. It felt right. Close to home, familiar territory. But when a coaching change rocked the program, Haskins pivoted. He chose Ohio State. Not just a football school, the football school. Ohio State is not for the faint of heart, especially at quarterback. Haskins arrived in 2016 and redshirted his first year, sitting behind J.T. Barrett, one of the most decorated QBs in Big Ten history. But Haskins wasn't bitter. He studied, he learned, he waited. And in 2017, when Barrett went down briefly against Michigan, the Buckeyes turned to Haskins in the game. One of the biggest rivalries in college football. One of the tensest, highest-stake moments imaginable. Haskins did not flinch. Down 20-14, facing a 3rd and long, Haskins stepped up, ripped a 27-yard strike over the middle to Austin Mack. First down. Momentum shift. Confidence boosted. He led Ohio State to a 31-20 win, completing 6 of 7 passes for 94 yards. In a rivalry defined by grit and glory, Haskins added his name to the ledger. The whispers began. This kid's different. In 2018, Dwayne Haskins finally took the reins, and from week 1, it was clear. This wasn't going to be an ordinary season. He started the year off with a 313-yard, 5-touchdown performance against Oregon State. Then came 344-yard and 4 touchdowns against Rutgers. Then 304 against TCU. Week after week, Haskins lit it up. And it wasn't just the numbers. It was how he did it. Precision throws, deep balls with touch, laser-quick reads, pocket presence that felt NFL ready. The stats by season end were staggering. 4,831 passing yards, a Big Ten record. 50 touchdowns, another Big Ten record. Just 8 interceptions and a completion percentage of 70%. He led the Buckeyes to a 13-1 record, a Big Ten championship, and a 28-3 win over Washington in the Rose Bowl. He was named MVP of that game. And while the Heisman Trophy went to Oklahoma's Kyler Murray, Haskins made history in his own right. He became the first Big Ten quarterback to throw 50 touchdowns in a single season. Names like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson were now beneath his in the record books. Scouts began salivating. Analysts projected him as a top 10 pick. His draft stock skyrocketed. Haskins declared for the 2019 NFL Draft after just one season as a starter. A bold move, but not a surprising one. He had done all he could in college. April 25th, 2019. Nashville, Tennessee. The NFL Draft. Bright lights, big stage, and a crowd of thousands packing Broadway. Dwayne Haskins sat with his family, wearing a tailored burgundy suit and a calm smile. Cameras fixed on him. Speculation swirled. Would the Giants take him at number 6? Would he fall? Would Washington move up? As Kyler Murray went first overall to the Cardinals and Daniel Jones went 6th to the Giants, Haskins' face remained composed. Beneath that, you could feel the fire. Pick after pick, team after team, until finally. With the 15th pick in the NFL Draft, Washington selects Dwayne Haskins, quarterback, Ohio State. The moment was electric. Here he was, drafted by the team just miles from where he played high school ball. Coming home. The DMV zone. A quarterback with sky-high potential returning to a city starving for a franchise savior. In interviews, Haskins kept it real. The league done messed up, he said. A subtle nod to teams that passed on him. A statement. A chip on the shoulder. The journey was only the beginning. And so was the lore of that rated rookie card. There's something almost iconic about the 2019 Donruss Rated Rookie design. It doesn't try too hard. No chrome, no foil. Just clean lines, bold font, and a timeless photo. For the Dwayne Haskins card, he's captured in full gear, commanding, confident, like a quarterback on the brink of something big. It's not a game action shot. It's not stylized. It's Haskins, framed and frozen in a moment of poised readiness. The Rated Rookie logo on the top right, card number 301 stamped on the back, a name written in bold across the bottom, Dwayne Haskins, quarterback, Washington. For collectors, it became a hot target, not because of scarcity, but because of significance. This was the first true cardboard arrival of a player who could become the face of a franchise. It was a time capsule in card stock. And yet, as time would reveal, the story of this card would carry not just the weight of promise, but the sting of potential left unfulfilled. The honeymoon was short. When Dwayne Haskins arrived in Washington in 2019, the air was electric, but also uncertain. The franchise, known for more dysfunction than dominance in recent years, was at a crossroads. Ownership was constantly under scrutiny. The front office was fraying at the edges. The coaching staff was fighting for its future. But amid the chaos stood a 22-year-old rookie quarterback with a city on his back. The dream was alive, but the foundation was cracked. To understand Haskins' rookie season, you first have to understand the team that drafted him. Washington hadn't had a stable quarterback since the prime years of Kirk Cousins, and even in that era, ended with tension and franchise tags. The fan base had grown tired of short-term stoppages and system failures. Ownership wanted a new star, a savior. But the selection of Haskins at number 15 wasn't unanimous. Reports emerged almost immediately that head coach Jay Gruden hadn't wanted Haskins. It was a pick driven more by the owner Dan Snyder, who had a more personal connection to Haskins' past. Remember, the Haskins family had relocated to Maryland from New Jersey years earlier. Dwayne had grown up just outside the D.C. Beltway. He was a local kid with local ties. Snyder had watched him develop. To him, this was destiny. To Gruden, it felt like a decision made above his head. So from the start, Haskins entered an environment where he wasn't everyone's guy. The quarterback room in 2019 was a blend of the seasoned and the scarred. Case Keenum, the journeyman. Colt McCoy, the familiar face. Haskins, the heir apparent. Washington opted to not name a clear starter going into the season. Gruden maintained that Haskins would need time. He was raw, a one-year college starter, still developing his footwork and still adjusting to NFL speed. But the pressure was mounting. Fans wanted to see the rookie. Management wanted him to play. And Haskins, for all his maturity, wanted to prove he belonged. But development takes time, and Washington had no time. Week 4, the Washington offense was floundering against the New York Giants. Down 14-0 early, Jay Gruden turned to the rookie. Haskins entered the game to cheers from the visiting fans who made the trip north. This was it, the debut. But it went south fast. His first pass, a completion, encouraging. His next few drives, a mess. He finished the day 9 for 17 with 107 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. One was a pick six. The Giants' defense baited him, confused him, and preyed on the rookie nerves. His timing was off. His footwork was rushed. The game, as they say, looked too fast. Social media erupted. Pundits pounced. He's not ready. He needs to sit. Is he a bust? But what they didn't see was what lay beneath. A quarterback thrown into a hostile situation with no warning, no tailored game plan, and little trust from the staff above him. But still, the whispers began. By week 5, Washington was 0-5, and Gruden was out. The firing wasn't a surprise. The tension between front office and coaching staff had been simmering for years. Gruden had clashed with management over personnel. Now, the team was in free fall, and Haskins was caught in the middle. The axe fell. Enter Bill Callahan, a veteran O-line coach. Old school, hard-nosed, but not the kind of guy you hire to groom a rookie quarterback. Callahan made it clear. The offense would run through the ground game. Adrian Peterson, smash-mouth football. And Haskins, he'd continue to sit, at least for now. The team was fractured. The identity was unclear. Dwayne Haskins was supposed to be the future. He was riding the bench behind Case Keenum and Colt McCoy while trying to stay ready for a call that might never come. It was football purgatory. Every move Haskins made was dissected. Every smile, every sideline interaction, every social media post. He wasn't just a quarterback. He was a symbol, a flashpoint in a larger cultural shift. A young black quarterback drafted high, charismatic, confident, stylish. But in a league still clinging to archaic views of what a QB1 should look like, act like, and sound like, Haskins faced judgment beyond the field. Photos of him laughing on the sideline during a loss, immature. Clips of him dancing or showing personality, not focused. In truth, Haskins was 22, just a kid. But when you're wearing the helmet of a franchise quarterback, there is no grace period. You either win or you're doubted. And when you lose in Washington, you're devoured. In Week 9, against the Buffalo Bills, Dwayne Haskins made his first official NFL start. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't flawless, but he was steady. 15 of 22, 144 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. A game manager. Washington lost 24-9, but Haskins didn't implode. He protected the ball. He took what the defense gave him. He looked competent. That wasn't enough to quiet the critics. But for the first time, there was a glimpse. Not of dominance, but of control. It was a start. The second half of the season became Haskins' unofficial rookie stretch. He would start the final 7 games of the year, and in each passing week, the narrative evolved. In Week 11 against the Jets, he threw his first NFL touchdown. In Week 12, he led a late drive to beat the Lions, his first career win. It should have been a triumphant moment. Instead, the cameras caught him missing the final kneel-down snap because he was taking selfies with fans in the front row. The media roasted him. Unprofessional, not ready, too immature for the moment. It was an honest mistake, born from adrenaline and from youth. But in Washington, there are no innocent missteps, only proof of failure. Still, his performance was improving. You could see it in his eyes, his confidence, his reads. Against the Eagles in Week 15, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Against the Giants in Week 16, his best game yet. 133.3 passer rating before he exited with an ankle injury. The final numbers on his rookie year. 7 starts, 1,365 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 58.6 completion rate, 2-5 as a starter. Not elite, not disastrous, but unfinished. That was the theme. It's easy to look at the stats and shake your head, but context matters. Washington's offensive line was bottom tier in pass protection. The wide receiver core was thin, except for a rising Terry McLaurin, Haskins' former Ohio State teammate, and now his number one target. The run game was inconsistent. The play calling, vanilla at best. And beyond the field, the franchise was imploding. Reports of internal dysfunction mounted. Ownership meddling. Culture complaints. Allegations of toxic workplace behavior. The team was directionless, rudderless, and reactionary. What Haskins needed was time and stability. He got neither. Despite the mess, there was real hope heading into 2020. Ron Rivera was hired as head coach, a respected leader known for culture building. Scott Turner was brought in as an offensive coordinator. Haskins would get a full offseason, albeit a virtual one due to COVID-19, and the reins would finally be his. This would be his team. The team posted workout clips. Haskins was slimmer, focused, and vocal. He was working with private QB coaches, refining his mechanics. Rivera spoke glowingly about his maturity. There was momentum. That rated rookie card, it wasn't dead stock. It was a hold. Maybe this year it would pay off. The 2020 NFL season was a season like no other. The COVID-19 pandemic upended training camps, wiped out preseason games, and altered the rhythm of preparation across the league. For Dwayne Haskins, it meant no live reps, no in-person chemistry building with new teammates, and limited face-to-face coaching. Still, optimism lingered in the DC air. New coach, new culture, new chance. For a few weeks, it felt like the rated rookie had finally become the recognized starter, but the microscope wasn't going anywhere. In fact, it was zooming in. Ron Rivera, known for his no-nonsense demeanor and stoic leadership, gave Haskins the starting job entering the season. It was a vote of confidence. It's his team right now, Rivera told reporters week one. He earned the right. Haskins responded. In week one, facing the Philadelphia Eagles, he led Washington to a come-from-behind 27-17 victory. The numbers weren't eye-popping. 178 yards and 1 touchdown. But he managed the game. He protected the ball. He led. He was vocal on the sideline, energized and focused. Reporters noted his improved command of the huddle. Coaches praised his ability to process calls and make checks at the line. Fans saw a slimmer, more mobile Haskins. There was progress. But NFL weeks move fast, and so do perceptions. The next 3 games were rough. In week 2, Haskins faced the Arizona Cardinals and looked tentative. Against Cleveland, he threw 3 interceptions, including 2 in the red zone. By week 4, facing a dominant Ravens defense, Washington was 1-3 and Haskins was in trouble. The numbers through 4 games: 61% completion rate, 939 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble lost. The tape revealed hesitation, inconsistent footwork, late throws, missed reads. At times, he flashed brilliance, lasers to McLaurin, deep outs with touch, but the inconsistencies were glaring. Fans were divided. Some called for patience, reminding everyone that it was only his 12th career start. Others called for change. Rivera made his decision. Before week 5, Rivera benched Dwayne Haskins, not just as a starter, but to third string. Kyle Allen was elevated to QB1. Veteran Alex Smith, still completing his miraculous return from a catastrophic leg injury, became the backup. Haskins was demoted. No warning, no ramp down, just gone. The reasoning? Rivera cited a need to win now. Washington, despite a 1-3 record, was in a weak NFC East division. He believed Allen gave them the best chance to stay competitive. To the public, it looked like a dismissal of the future for a short-term fix. But inside the building, there were whispers. Concerns about Haskins' work habits, leadership, and maturity. Whether justified or not, the label stuck. And in the NFL, perception is everything. Not long after the benching, Haskins missed practice. The team listed it as an illness, non-COVID related, but speculation soared. Reports leaked off of frustration within the organization. Some said he lacked preparation. Others hinted at tension with coaches. Dwayne later clarified, he wasn't sulking, he wasn't quitting, he was sick. Still, the damage was done. Third string. Rumors swirling. Career at a crossroads. While Haskins waited in the wings, a bigger story took over the Washington quarterback narrative. On October 11th, 2020, Alex Smith took the field again. 693 days after suffering a leg injury that nearly cost him his life. Smith returned to NFL action. It was inspirational, emotional, historic. Also, it buried Haskins deeper on the depth chart. Now he wasn't just a struggling former starter. He was the forgotten man behind a miracle comeback. But in the NFL, depth charts are fragile, and fate, once again, opened the door. Week 14. After injuries to Kyle Allen and Alex Smith, Haskins was back under center. It wasn't the fairy tale return. Against the Seattle Seahawks, he threw for 295 yards and a touchdown, but he also had 2 costly interceptions. The team lost 20-15. Still, the performance wasn't disastrous. He moved the offense, showed resilience. He looked, in flashes, like a quarterback still figuring it out. But off the field, another storm was brewing. Days after the Seahawks game, photos surfaced online. Haskins had attended a private party, no mask, surrounded by people, no social distancing. In the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, all still while being on the team's COVID protocol list. The public backlash was swift. Coaches were furious. The team fined him $40,000, the largest known fine for a COVID-19 violation at that point. He was stripped of his captaincy. To some, it was the final straw, another lapse in judgment, another sign of immaturity. But to Haskins, it was a mistake, one he owned. I know I shouldn't have put the team at risk, he posted on social media. It was irresponsible and immature. I accept responsibility. It was a moment of public accountability, but in a league that often gives second chances only to those who win, it may have come too late. Week 16, a crucial game against the Carolina Panthers. Washington needed a win to stay atop the division. Haskins got the nod. It did not go well. 2 interceptions, a lost fumble, a 14.5 passer rating. He was benched mid-game. After the game, he skipped his scheduled media availability. The team announced he would address reporters the next day, but by then, the writing was on the wall. The very next morning, Washington released Dwayne Haskins. Less than 2 years after drafting him 15 overall, they gave up. No trade, no demotion, just gone. It was shocking, even for Washington. A top 15 pick, a franchise QB, released before the end of his second season. Only one other quarterback drafted in the first round had been cut quicker in the last decade. The narrative came crashing down. That rated rookie became a cautionary tale. Sports shows debated his future. Pundits dissected every misstep. Some blamed him. Others blamed the organization. And most blamed both. But beneath the media firestorm was a 23-year-old kid who still believed in himself. He issued a statement. I take full responsibility for not meeting the standards of an NFL quarterback. I will come back a better man and player because of this experience. There was humility in the words, reflection, resolve. But was it all too late? By now, that 2019 rated rookie had become something else. No longer a symbol of promise. It became a snapshot of what could have been. Collectors held it with mixed feelings, disappointment, hope. Some dumped them and some held on. Some said it was worthless. But others, they saw it differently. A piece of history. A chapter in the story of a young man still writing his next act. A reminder that the league moves fast, but life moves faster. Because no one knew it then, but time was running out. For most players, getting cut just 2 seasons after being picked in the first round signals the end. Not many get another shot. Not after the interceptions, not after the headlines, and not after the doubts. But Dwayne Haskins wasn't most players. He still had the arm, the frame, the upside. And in the cold, calculating calculus of the NFL scouting departments, upsides buys you time. Potential buys you another chance. And in January 2021, one came. Not from a rebuilding team, from a franchise desperate for talent, from one of the NFL's most iconic organizations, the Pittsburgh Steelers. When the Steelers signed Dwayne Haskins to a reserve future contract, it didn't make front-page headlines. It was quiet, subtle, a low-risk, low-cost move. But inside the walls of the Rooney-run organization, there was intent. Pittsburgh needed to think about life after Ben Roethlisberger. The two-time Super Bowl champ was aging, slowing. And the backup situation? Mason Rudolph, Josh Dobbs, offered little long-term upside. Haskins? He was young, talented, experienced, and hungry. It was a bet on growth. At the press conference introducing him, Haskins didn't dodge his past. I know I've made mistakes, but I also know who I am. I'm just thankful for the opportunity. I'm ready to get to work. No flash, no big promises, just humility. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't QB1. He was just a quarterback in a room, learning, listening, and rebuilding. It's exactly what he needed. The Pittsburgh Steelers are different. They don't leak stories to the media. They don't chase headlines. They don't panic. For decades, they've prided themselves on continuity, discipline, and internal accountability. Mike Tomlin, the long-term head coach, is a steady force. Players respect him. Coaches trust him. And he doesn't sugarcoat things. From the start, Tomlin laid it out plainly. Haskins would compete. Nothing was promised. Everything was earned. That message resonated. Haskins put his head down, attended every meeting, put in extra work after practice, studied the playbook, and watched film. He wasn't the center of attention anymore, and that was good. Steel sharpens steel, and under the surface, he was sharpening. By the summer of 2021, Haskins was starting to make noise in training camp. Reporters noticed. He looks more in control. The arm talent is obvious. Improved decision-making. Seems more comfortable. He was still behind Rudolph on the depth chart, but the gap was closing. In preseason games, Haskins showed flashes. Crisp throws, quick reads, and touch on intermediate routes. Against the Eagles in the preseason, 16 for 22, 161 yards, 1 touchdown. Poised and productive. It wasn't headline grabbing, but it was progress. Mike Tomlin took note. He's grown by leaps and bounds. He's matured. There were even whispers from inside the building that Haskins might challenge Rudolph for the backup spot behind Big Ben. He didn't win it in 2021, but he wasn't far off. He made the 53-man roster. He was back in the league. In Pittsburgh, the legacy of Dwayne Haskins' 2019 rated rookie card number 301 began to evolve again. It wasn't about his rookie year anymore. It wasn't about interception totals or about the Washington collapse. It was about the card that represented a comeback, a story in progress. Collectors began pulling them from boxes with mixed emotions. Should I hold this? Is this a redemption arc? What if he gets his chance in Pittsburgh? The price didn't skyrocket, but the sentiment changed. It became a wait-and-see card, a symbol of a young man rewriting his narrative, a kid with more football left in him. And behind the scenes, he was doing just that. Haskins didn't only grow as a quarterback in Pittsburgh. He grew as a man. He became a student of the game, sat with Roethlisberger after practices, asked questions, took notes, embraced the film room, built a chemistry with receivers, joined offensive line dinners, and engaged in community events. Coaches noticed a whole new level of preparation. He wasn't the loudest in the room. He didn't flash on Instagram or issue grand declarations. He simply showed up. Every day. And by the end of the 2021 season, as Roethlisberger's retirement loomed, the Steelers began to look to the future. They signed Mitchell Trubisky, drafted Kenny Pickett, but they also re-signed Haskins, and that meant something. Mike Tomlin isn't one for platitudes, but when asked about Haskins in early 2022, his words carried weight. He's grown in the right ways. We're excited to continue working with him. It wasn't just coach speak. It was affirmation. The Steelers were keeping him in the building, in the quarterback room, and in the mix. And when Haskins spoke to the media that offseason, he sounded more self-aware than ever. I used to think being talented was enough, Now I know it's more than that. It's about preparation, about focus, and about earning it every day. He wasn't chasing the spotlight anymore. He was chasing the standard. As the 2022 offseason began, the Steelers planned to host an open competition. Trubisky, Pickett, Haskins. 3 very different quarterbacks, 3 very different stories. But Haskins was right in it. Attending voluntary workouts, studying tape, taking reps, texting with coaches, quietly pushing forward. There was no social media campaign, no camera crews, no interviews calling his shot. Just effort. Steelers insiders were whispering that Haskins could be the dark horse, the forgotten contender, the one who might surprise everyone. Because for the first time since Ohio State, Dwayne Haskins was in a stable system, surrounded by structure, supported, not scrutinized. He was a rated rookie again, but older, wiser, and sharpened. And then the world stopped. Dwayne Haskins was struck and killed while attempting to cross a highway. The timeline was jarring, confusing, unreal. Age just 24. Within minutes, the NFL community reeled. Players flooded social media. Coaches issued tearful statements. Teammates posted broken hearts. Ohio State canceled planned events out of respect. The Steelers issued a statement simply calling him a valued member of our family. No one knew what to say because there was no answer. The story had ended, abruptly, tragically, senselessly. The quarterback battle that never was, the redemption arc unfinished. The rated rookie was gone. The weeks that followed brought tributes. Teammates like Chase Claypool wept on camera. Mike Tomlin spoke of Haskins as one of the most genuine, hardworking young men I've ever known. Cam Hayward called him family. At Ohio State, they held a vigil. Justin Fields, Terry McLaurin, and other teammates gathered to honor their fallen brother. It wasn't about football anymore. It was about loss, about a life cut short, about a light that still had so much left to give. That 2019 Donruss Rated Rookie number 301 card took on a new meaning. For collectors, it became more than just cardboard. It became a memorial. A moment captured before the world changed. A snapshot of innocence, promise, and youth. Prices rose, but not in the way they do for legends or superstars. It was a solemn rise, a recognition of finality. Some collectors refused to sell them. Others placed the card in personal shrines. The corners now carried grief. The blue border now framed memories. It became not just a card, but a tombstone made of ink and cardstock. Dwayne Haskins never played a regular season down for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but that doesn't mean he didn't matter. Not to his teammates, not to his coaches, not to young quarterbacks who watched his journey unfold like a warning and a whisper. Not to the city of Pittsburgh, which adopted him quietly and mourned loudly. Not to collectors still holding on to that rated rookie number 301 card, now sleeved and sealed in a kind of reverence. He may not become the star everyone imagined on draft night, but in the shadow of what could have been, the echo still reverberates. In the days following his death, the NFL community paused, and in a league that rarely slows down, that means something. Every team acknowledged the loss. Opposing quarterbacks posted tributes. NFL Network aired montages of his college highlights. Former Buckeyes gathered online, sharing memories of a player they admired and a person they respected. Some remembered his cannon arm, others his charisma. Many remembered his kindness. Steelers defensive lineman Cam Hayward tweeted, "Dwayne meant so much to many. His smile was infectious. He was a guy you wanted to be around. We lost you way too early." Ohio State head coach Ryan Day called him a legend here, forever. And Mike Tomlin, he simply said, he was one of us, a Steeler. It's easy to reduce players to stats, to turn every athlete into a resume of touchdowns and interceptions, to see only the win and loss column. But Dwayne Haskins wasn't a stat line. He was a son, a brother, a husband, a teammate, and a friend. He was goofy in the locker room and serious in the film room. He danced in warm-ups and studied hard in private. He made mistakes, yes, but he owned them. And in the end, he was trying to grow, trying to mature, trying to re-rate the story that had been written for him too early. One of his last tweets read, "Can't wait to go back to work tomorrow. God is good." Less than 24 hours later, he was gone. In a moment that should have united the football world in grief, something broke. Most notably, ESPN's Adam Schefter and former Cowboys executive Gil Brandt made callous, tone-deaf remarks. Schefter referred to Haskins as a struggling quarterback in his breaking tweet. Brandt said Haskins was living to be dead and suggested he was reckless with life. The backlash was immediate. Players erupted on social media. Lamar Jackson, Des Bryant, LaShawn McCoy, and others called out the insensitivity. Fans demanded apologies. Within hours, both men issued statements. Schefter deleted his original tweet and apologized on air. Brandt apologized as well, but the damage was done. It was a sobering reminder. So often, athletes are talked about like headlines instead of humans. Haskins deserved better. Of all the tributes, one stood out. Terry McLaurin, Haskins' college teammate and close friend, broke down during a Washington Commanders press conference weeks after Haskins' death. "We came into the league together. I believed in him more than anyone," he said, voice cracking. He had so much more to give. It was raw, vulnerable, and honest. And in a sport that prizes stoicism, it cut through the noise. McLaurin wasn't talking about touchdowns or box scores. He was talking about a friend, a brother, someone he knew. That was the truth about Dwayne Haskins. He wasn't perfect, but he was loved. That 2019 rated rookie, number 301, became an artifact, a fixed image of a man whose story had so many chapters yet to be written. Collectors found themselves staring at the card differently now, not as investors, but as rememberers. It wasn't about resale value. It was about remembrance. The blue border once signaled future, now encased a frozen past. And yet, there was warmth in it. Because in that card, he looks calm, confident, at peace. He doesn't know what's coming. The struggles, the benchings, the noise, the comeback, the ending. All he knows is that he's made it, to the league, to that moment, to that card. In Columbus, they didn't hesitate. The Buckeyes immediately honored Haskins with a memorial at the stadium. Flowers, photos, messages from fans and teammates. His image was shown during spring game ceremonies. Players wore decals with his initials. And later that year, the university announced they would honor Haskins permanently. In 2022, Ohio State added a permanent tribute inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, where current players train and meet. It includes a large mural of Haskins, his stats, and a plaque reading, "In memory of Dwayne Haskins, a Buckeye forever." It was more than a gesture. It was a promise that his legacy, at least in Columbus, would never fade. After his passing, Dwayne's family launched the Dwayne Haskins Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to uplifting underserved youth through mentorship, sports opportunities, and academic support. It was modeled after what Dwayne Haskins had always spoken about, using his platform to help kids from where he came from. He never forgot about the people who believed in him when he was young. Now, his foundation would pay it forward. They also held youth camps in his honor. Kids wore jerseys with his name. Coaches shared stories of his heart and humility. In life, he wanted to give. And in death, he still does. What does the Dwayne Haskins story teach us? It teaches us that the NFL is not always fair. That talent isn't always enough. That context matters. That mistakes happen. Growth takes time. Not every prospect gets the runway they need. That we are all more than our worst days. It also teaches us to remember, to see the person behind the player, to hold space for grief. Appreciate the journey, not just the destination. And in every collector's drawer, in every shoebox filled with cards, in every sleeve that protects rated rookie number 301, that lesson lives. Long after the final whistle, long after the headlines fade and jersey numbers are reassigned, long after debates and depth charts and contracts dissolve into the background, something still lingers. The story. And for Dwayne Haskins, that story is told most vividly by the cardboard rectangle that bears its name. Donruss Rated Rookie number 301. It's not a rare card, not particularly flashy, not autographed, not serial numbered or refractor coated, not hologram stamped. It is, by most collector standards, ordinary. And yet, it may be one of the most important cards of our generation, because it captures a moment that cannot be recreated. Let's look again. The photo. Haskins, helmet off, eyes focused, standing tall in his Washington uniform. Not in motion, not caught in a touchdown celebration or mid-throw. It's almost quiet, composed. His gaze is fixed just off camera, maybe at the horizon, or maybe into the unknown. The expression says everything. Confidence, youth, possibility. It was his first NFL card, his rated rookie. A declaration, this is the guy. And for a brief time, he was. This is what cards do. They crystallize time and trap potential. They remember for us when we forget. They don't change when the world does. When Donruss revived the rated rookie line in its modern form, it wasn't just a design choice. It was a philosophy. A belief in the power of beginnings. A way to celebrate players before the world decides who they are. That's what makes number 301 so vital. Because it wasn't printed with hindsight. It wasn't minted after a Pro Bowl season or a playoff run. It was released in the season of hope. When Dwayne Haskins was still becoming. And that's what makes it powerful now. It remains a tribute to the possibility, to the journey, to the young man standing at the threshold of a life he was still figuring out. Not everyone gets to finish their story, but the card stays. In the wake of Haskins' passing, a quiet movement took hold in the collector community. People began posting their rated rookie number 301s online. Some signed, some raw, some in PSA slabs, some creased and carried in wallets, each with a caption, "Rest easy, 7. Gone too soon. This one stays in my PC forever." It wasn't about the value, it was about the memory. Collectors who had once sought the card for promise now held it for meaning. It became a symbol of empathy, of youth and of loss, of what sports can remind us, that beneath the stats are people, with families, with friends, and with futures. And sometimes those stories end too early. If there's any grace in the grief, it's now that Haskins' story has helped others slow down. Players and fans alike have spoken out about mental health, support systems, second chances, and the dangers of judging young athletes too quickly. Analysts who once criticized too harshly have admitted they should have shown more grace. There's no undoing tragedy, but there is learning. And in some strange way, that little blue-bordered card has helped. Because every time someone picks it up, they remember, not just the mistakes, but the smile, the hustle, the fight to grow, the passion for the game. They remember him. At Ohio State, his name is carved into the record books. 4,831 passing yards in a season, 50 passing touchdowns in a season, 9 games with 300-plus passing yards, Big Ten champion, Rose Bowl MVP, Heisman finalist. But more than that, his name is carved into our hearts. You don't break every Big Ten passing record and just disappear. You don't inspire generations of DMV kids and fade. You don't become the face of a football-crazed school and then get reduced to footnotes. Haskins is permanent, on film, in memories, and yes, in cardboard. What hurts the most about Dwayne Haskins' story isn't that he struggled. It's that he never got to finish. He was turning a corner, maturing, learning, rebuilding. In Pittsburgh, surrounded by structure and led by mentors who believed in him, he was becoming something new. And we will never know what that version of Dwayne Haskins could have been like. That is the wound. But that's also the point. Because sports aren't about guarantees, they're about moments. And Dwayne Haskins gave us those. The comeback at Michigan, the 50-touchdown season, the draft night chip on his shoulder, the selfie after his first win, the spring workouts in Pittsburgh, the quiet humility in his last interview. The moments that mattered, the moments that last. Imagine the card again. It sits on a desk, framed, sleeved, flat in the center of a plastic top loader. The background fades, but the card is clear, sharp, vibrant. And inside it, a young man, unburdened, determined, smiling faintly. Not a statistic, not a cautionary tale, not a bust or a breakout. Just Dwayne, ready for whatever came next. On the surface, in the 2019 Rated Rookie 301, it's a card, one of many. But if you look closely, it tells a bigger story of promise, pressure, missteps, growth, tragedy, and legacy. It reminds us that every card has a story, but not every story is finished on the field. Some finish in memory, in impact, in the people left behind that'll still say your name. Dwayne Haskins may not have thrown 1,000 touchdowns, but he mattered, and that card will always say so. If you have that card, hold on to it. Not because it will ever make you rich, but because it holds the weight of a life, a real one. Rated Rookie 301, forever young, forever remembered.